We're live. This is Angela, and the channel is Be Fabulous You, and we are looping back to my playlist hashtag Be Fabulous You A to Z, and the conversation or the topic is image. And so, what I really wanted to touch on, explore, think about, just take a moment to process is this idea of our image of ourselves when we're by ourselves and it's just us. Now, we can think of that as individuals, we can think of that as families, we can think of that as a community, like as a black community, or as black communities, various black communities. What do we think of ourselves? What is our opinion of ourselves? As a family, what does your family think of your family? As you yourself, when it's just you by yourself looking in the mirror, going to bed at night, reflecting, processing, who are you to you? And I guess part of a piece of the whole conversation about image that I think is really important is integrity, because I think a lot of times we spend time and effort and energy focusing on projecting an image out into the world of who we'd like to be and how we'd like to have people perceive us, how we'd like to have people see us, who we want people to think we are, which may sometimes be at odds with who we actually know ourselves to be. And sometimes we don't have the courage to just be who we are. So there are two ways in which I feel like we need to have courage to be who we are. So for example, if I like avocados and avocados aren't popular, but that's what I like, I think it's really important for us to have for me to have the courage to say I like avocados. Now I've never had avocado. I don't eat avocados, but I'm just saying if I like if I think thick noses are cute and I think thick noses are cute, I don't care. Like, I guess my personality is such that I don't really, I like what I like anyway, and I want what I want. I'm not really much of a, I don't think that sways me, so much. But you have heard tell of people who would deal with some people in public and might not deal with those same people in public that they would deal with in private. So maybe they like a woman who's thicker, or maybe they like a woman who's darker, but they feel like that's at odds with their image, or that's at odds with what everybody else thinks that they should like. And so they don't necessarily, they'll deal with somebody in private who they don't deal with in public. So, sometimes I think that we're afraid to just, even when we know what we like, sometimes I think we're afraid to just be like, this is what I like. And then also I think that sometimes we're embarrassed by who we are. And I think that that's also really important. I think that, sort of coming to love and accept yourself is it's a big deal. It's a hard do. I don't think that it's like an easy, simple thing. And I think that, there's this idea sometimes, like I was a part of a group of women, we are called the Goddess Collective. And so I remember, I guess for me, part of the process was understanding that just because I'm a goddess does not mean that I'm perfect. And I remember some of my other goddess sisters saying, well, I can't be out here saying I'm a goddess when I smoke. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not in favor of you stopping smoking, but I feel like you're a goddess whether you're smoking or not smoking. That's the essence. That's who you are. Or, sometimes I think that, like maybe people who are part of, like, I'm too blessed to be stressed, who are part of certain, Christian communities, they may be dealing with certain things and struggling with certain things, and they feel like ashamed to be exactly who they are and to be public with who they are, even sometimes, with themselves. And sometimes I think that we have a challenge with our image, our self-image, because we make promises to ourselves. We make decisions to do certain things that only we know about, and then we don't follow up with them. And so it starts to erode or continues the erosion of my relationship with myself. So if I say, I'm going to work out every day, and then I don't work out tomorrow or the next day or the next day or the next day, the next time I look in the mirror, it affects how I feel about myself. So, like, and then, so that's part of it too. And then also I feel like, I guess I was starting to get at this whole idea of, the shadow versus the light, or the shadow and the light. And I feel like it's all one. Like, as human beings, as people, if there's a heads, there's a tail. If there's a up, there's a down. If there's an in, there's an out. If there's shadow, there's light. If there's light, there's shadow. So so like, we have to learn to love and embrace all of who we are as individuals. I think that for the most part, in our families, I think we can do a good job of that. Like, I remember as a student at my elementary school, there were only about 20 of us in my class. And it was like, there were just like, everybody was who they were. And we just accepted them because they were the family. They were our classmates. Or the way that I grew up. Now, I know everybody didn't grow up like this, but I have a cousin who, I remember in high school, my mother told me that, this male cousin, this person who I had always known as a man, 6'6", 6'7", 230 pounds, big guy, that he came to her job, her office, dressed as a woman. And so, we kind of had a conversation about it, but I remember noticing that my mother didn't really seem upset about it. Like, she was just like, wow, this happened. And it seemed kind of like a surprise to her, but it didn't seem like a bad surprise. It was just kind of like, oh, wow, this happened. And that really shaped, I guess everybody in my family doesn't feel the same way. But for me, that kind of started to shape how I felt, or it continued to shape how I felt about family, in terms of like, well, everybody is just who they are, and we love them because that's my cousin. What am I going to do? Stop loving my cousin? He doesn't dress in women's clothes anymore that I know of, but he might, I don't know. Whenever I see him, he has on, I don't even know if I ever saw him dressed in women's clothes. And what are women's clothes? That's a whole nother conversation. But I think that as families, for the most part, you have cousins or people that you like, or like more, like less, and we can kind of like accept, who's who. And I think as a community, I don't know, I think I'm getting to be a little bit better at, like I noticed, for example, with the YouTube community, the Black YouTubers, I listen to a whole bunch of different people who have a whole bunch of different ideas. And a lot of times there are things that I agree with, and there are things that I don't agree with. Just because I listen to somebody and I enjoy them as a YouTuber does not mean that I agree with everything that they say. Just because I don't agree with everything they say or everything they believe doesn't mean that I'm going to cut them off. It's like, I feel like I can love and accept the people as the people. Like, it's the Black YouTubers. Like, that's sometimes they say some stuff that I think is just crazy and ridiculous, and that's just the nature of the game. I think that the process for me personally of coming to love and accept myself unconditionally, and to be able to reconcile my image of myself with the reality of who I was in my most private, intimate moments, was to start affirming. And I did mirror work. So if you're looking for exercise, I started doing, I love and accept all of me. All of me is lovable and acceptable. Angela, I love and accept you. Angela, you're loved and accepted. Angela is loved and accepted. I love and accept all of you. Mirror work, get you a mirror, look in the mirror, and, say that 20 times, 100 times every day, 20 times, 100 times, 3 times a day, whatever you feel guided to, set you up a routine and do your routine and look in the mirror. And when I first started, I kind of had a hard time looking at myself and saying, I love and accept all of you, because there were parts of me that I felt weren't deserving of love and acceptance. There were parts of me that I couldn't really figure out how to love and accept unconditionally. And I don't think that I'm like, totally like there, but I feel like I knew that I had a breakthrough with that. And I knew that I was at a different place with it when my relationships with other people started to change. With other people, I feel like I started to feel like because I was loving and accepting myself more, I was more loving and accepting of other people. And so points of contention and points of friction and points of issues in my relationships with other people started to be eased. Like, I wasn't pressed in the way that I was pressed, because I was loving and accepting myself, and so I could be compassionate toward another person. My expectations of myself to be perfect has started to change, and so I stopped expecting other people to be perfect. So, I started to, my image of myself, I started to accept my image of myself more and more in true alignment with who I am. Sometimes with our parents, we'll have that thing like, we're like, our parents, oh, and then you start to realize that they're human beings, and some people like start to freak out. And part of the process of growing up is to realize that your parents are human beings, real people, dealing with stuff just like everybody else. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about image, but not image like what we project into the public. You'll see on the video when I drop the link in there, or when you go find it, that I was thinking last year, the last time we talked about this, I was thinking more of our image in terms of what we like for other people to perceive us as. But today, I just wanted to spend some time and invite you to spend some time thinking about and exploring and working on your image with yourself, accepting the light and the shadow, loving and accepting yourself unconditionally, and being in integrity with yourself. And so, the way that we have to get into integrity with ourselves is to do the stuff we don't want to do, even when we don't want to do it. And also to be able to accept, I don't like garlic. I don't care if it's good for me. I'm not eating garlic. I don't care. I'm not going to do that. And then I'm just in integrity with myself. If I'm like, oh, I love garlic, I'm going to eat garlic. Garlic is good for me. I love garlic so much. I eat garlic all the time. But then I really don't. And I'm lying to you and trying to project something to you. And I know that's at odds with who I am. So, I got a little distracted, but do your mirror work. If you're open and receptive and you need some suggestions, I would highly suggest that. It changed my life. I think it was probably like, I probably did like 2-3 weeks, 2-3 months. I don't know. Even now, if I think about it, I try to send myself some love and some unconditional love and share that with other people. Love and accept all of me, and just be loving and accepting of who people are. So that's it. That's what I got for today. Our image of ourselves and being integral, being in integrity, being at one, being honestly connected with ourselves and our image of ourselves, being able to see ourselves clearly and love all of what we see individually, our families, our communities. Who are we? Not when we're thinking about how other people are perceiving us, but when it's just us. Do we love us? And I think, I think also in terms of community and, self-love for Black folks, I think that's like a real, there's like a whole political element, because there's so much propaganda as women too. I feel like there's so much propaganda out there that you're wrong. There's something wrong with the way God created you. You're not supposed to have hair under your arms. You're not supposed to have hair under your legs. You're not supposed to have gray hair. You're not supposed to go out into the world without makeup. You're not supposed to be dark skinned. You're not supposed to be nappy headed. You're not supposed to, everything about you is wrong. So there's so much out there that's telling us that we're wrong. A lot of us that, it's a bigger do for us to, come to a place where we know that we are all right and that God created us perfectly and beautifully, and we are exactly who we are supposed to be, doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And the only thing that we need to do is be you. The only thing that you need to do, and me too, all of us, but I'm looking at myself as I say it, as I look at you. Be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you. Be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you. Be you.